Hello and welcome to the God is a Geek podcast. I'm your host Adam Cook for episode 502, and I am joined by Chris Hyde. Hello, Chris.
Hello, buddy. How are you? You all right?
I'm good. It's rare we take a week off for the reasons we took the week off, which we'll get to in a minute.
Yes.
But also with us is Lyle Carr. Hello, Lyle. You all right?
Hello, yep, I'm good. I'm happy to be here, fully rested after a week of sleeping instead of doing a podcast, because that's how this works.
It is. No, the reason. Go on. Yes, sorry, Chris. Go on straight away.
Just want to,
you interrupted me for a change.
Before we miss it, because I don't normally say nice things about Lyle, so that let's make a note of this one.
Might be the first
he has
time.
made an effort, and
I've
noticed.
Have I? Oh, you have.
I've noticed he's made an effort because a couple of weeks ago, when Lyle started his Christmas decorations, I challenged him to add something every week. And I noticed that he has.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, green Christmas thing.
Whatever that is, it's there.
I think it does a little dance. Does it do a little dance?
Great for the people who don't watch the podcast.
This is quality non-video.
No, it's not going.
The batteries are dead anyway. It's fine.
It needs some batteries.
That's fair enough. No, I was only going to say really that the reason we took a week off is because essentially we had nothing we could talk about. It would have been turning up to a podcast about games. And the games we're going to talk about this week are the ones we were playing, and it's kind of like, one, we had to go away and play them, and two, we couldn't talk about them. So I suppose we should just start with, well, I don't know, do you know what, I suppose we should start with A Plague Tale, I think, actually, because otherwise it means I'm going to have to do a lot of talking, and it'd be nice to hear.
Not.
Not. But A Plague Tale Requiem
Say that.
A Plague Tale Requiem.
You sort of went A Plague Tale Requiem. Anyway, carry on.
Did I?
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Weird. Sorry.
I didn't think I did. A Plague Tale Requiem, like that, is the sequel to our Game of the Year for 2019?
Mm-hmm.
2019.
Yeah, it must be.
So, I mean, I look back on that and I wonder, was it a bit of a weaker year, or was it...
I wasn't part of the team, right?
But you're not.
Sadly.
You weren't on the pod.
Well, I wasn't on the pod.
Yeah.
I think I might have been part of the team, but I wasn't on the pod.
You were. I was part of the team then.
Yeah, you definitely were, Chris.
So I was watching from the wings, screaming. No. I think you're right. I think the 2 years previous to that were really strong.
Yes.
And I think there was a lull, but I think that maybe does it a bit of a disservice, because I would probably... I can't remember what I did pick for my game.
Sorry.
I think it probably was that.
I don't mean to sound like, well, only one, because it was a tremendous game, and we were all kind of agreed on it, but it didn't have like the kind of like a competition in the form of like God of War or a Last of Us or a Forza or those kind of
Mario Odyssey,
Zelda. Yeah. It didn't have the big hitters against it like it did before, but nonetheless, fast forward 3 years ish. And A Plague Tale Requiem is here, and you and I have both finished it. You've finished it probably almost in your sleep twice over, I would imagine. But talk to us about it.
Yeah. So okay. So Plague Tale Requiem. So story wise, kind of picks up a little bit from. Well, it does absolutely pick up from the end of the last game. It is one of those games. Sometimes we'll go, "Do I need to have played the first one?" You do kind of need to have played the first one for this game. I would say if you haven't played Innocence, a lot of this gets lost on you. Story-wise, I think gameplay-wise, you can absolutely play this game without playing Innocence, but I do think I would highly recommend people play Innocence before Requiem. But so story picks up, and so you've got Amicia, who's the main character, protecting her little brother Hugo, and they're wandering around. I can't remember the 14th century France, I'll say, trying to find a cure for Hugo's disease, which kind of comes to a head at the end of Innocence. I won't say any more than that. So that's kind of the start of the game, and things, let's just say, go south pretty quickly. The reason why, apart from the story, the reason why I would also say Innocence is a good place to start with this game is because in Innocence they tended to build up to a lot of the gameplay elements, which they kind of just sort of go straight into in Requiem. So in Innocence, it kind of builds up to the rats and the whole the plague, and then how you kind of move around rats. Whereas literally chapter 2, bang, here we go, straight in, and you start getting weapons in your arsenal to kind of move rats around or to clear them out of the way or bring them back and stuff. So it starts very quickly. The pacing is very quick, which for someone that's played Innocence, I think I was quite pleased that. If I'd had to go through 4 chapters before I saw a rat, I think it would have been a very slow game. So
it's one of those things where you have to. It's almost like when you play almost like a superhero game, and then the next one they've lost all their powers, and you're like, but this is a sequel, so why have I lost all my powers? And they've got to come up with some convoluted, stupid way of explaining why. Oh, the kryptonite of whatever has made all your powers vanish. Whereas like in this, it's like, no, look, she knows how to do stuff. She's kind of done. This is not her first rodeo, you know. And I do like it when a game treats the player with respect in that way.
They definitely do that, and they obviously add to what she could do with extra things, which is how I guess it develops in later chapters. The game plays very similar to Innocence, and it's a combination of, I guess, stealth, bit of combat, and puzzle elements. Puzzle light, like we're not talking, hardcore puzzling. It's puzzle light elements. But a lot of it is around stealth. So you're either not meant to engage with a lot of soldiers or try and take them out quietly, because if you don't, you'll get surrounded. And then if they don't kill you, the rats will. So it is a game that kind of focuses you more on stealth. Certainly in the first half of the game anyway. And I'm sure me and Adam will come on to disagreeing about the latter half of the game in a moment. But
okay.
Yeah, so...
Are we even going to be able to have that discussion? Well, we are without. Yeah,
okay.
We
so
are.
Let's talk about it. Let's fleet around it. I'll be really clear on this. This game is a stealth game, and there are combat sections in this game that are dedicated combat sections. Like, it's not just you messed up the stealth and now therefore you've got to do some combat. There are parts of this game where it's like, no, you have to survive for X number of minutes or kill a certain number of enemies.
And not to sort of already preempt our argument, what I would say is I can only remember one section of. I agree with you. I think. So I will start off with saying I love this game. Like I'll start off by actually saying I think it would. Everyone knows how big of a fan I am of like God of War, of Horizon this year, various Nintendo titles. But I would be surprised if there's a single game that does better audio, certainly in terms of soundtrack, and Missy's voice is, it's just like it's next level. The soundtrack to this game is incredible. Like some of the emotional beats. I've forgotten the name of it. There's a word for it, but there's like a repeating theme, and every time it would go with those strings, the sharp strings, it would have me on such
like the rat noise type thing.
But there's also like to go with the kind of creeping strings. There's it's going to absolutely do my head in. I'm not going to be able to remember the name of this, but there's a word for like in music when you have a repeating theme that comes back and back and back and back. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But that generally the music is like next level for me. It is just some of the best I've heard in a long time. It's gameplay wise for me. This is kind of a weird one because I agree with you that I think they think it's a stealth game, right? And I say that because there's only one section I remember where you have to do stealth, like where you literally, I think you can't. I think it restricts you. You literally can't attack. I think during it, I want to say, or if you do, it's like if you set an alarm off and it's like game over.
Yeah.
But I actually did find myself playing kind of not impatiently, but like I do think the options. It's quite a gamey game. We'll get onto that. It's quite a gamey game, but because of that, I feel like that does give you quite a few options. And I found that my best option was often to. I kind of wanted a dodge button, dodge roll.
Well, listen. I thought this was going to. thought this was going to come Game of the Year, right? So there is part of this where I don't just want to literally lay all my cards on the table right.
No, I'm with you as well. Like this is going to be a bigger discussion.
There is. I'm glad you mentioned it because I'm just going to say it now. And I'm going to swear, right?
Okay, blimey.
Like,
hang on, let me put you full screen, Chris, for Christ's sake.
I'm not the best gamer in the world, right? I'm old.
You're decent.
Right? My reaction times aren't as good as they used to be, right?
I know what you're going to say.
It fucks me off when apparently some, not even a trained archer, but some...
Throwing a pole.
javelin thrower
Yeah, the javelin
from halfway
throwers.
across the map can just go and skewer me.
And
I'm like,
I felt like
and
they
also-
got me
and
first
then the
time
other
every
thing-
time. Always. I don't think there was a time
always.
I got them first.
Always. And then the other I swear, because this happened to me a few times, there are some big fellas, some rotund fellas that
Yeah.
chuck fire at you. And I am telling you now, they threw it where I was going to be, and I didn't even know where I was going to be.
I didn't even have that.
And I was just like, how have you known I'm going there? I was doing it to dodge away from you, and you've thrown it. I wasn't there. So, yeah.
But I
Anyway,
think I missed
think-
a tutorial tip for them because they were introduced, and I think I must have missed it because
No,
I
I
didn't
didn't-
know what they were doing, and yet every time I threw my fire at them, they'd blow up and explode. And I'm like, Jesus Christ! And then I later on realised, oh, they're throwing oil at me, and or something.
It happened differently to me because these guys basically they kind of catch fire when you kill them because
well, they
they
don't
are chucking
always.
exploding pots.
I think it's only when they're mid.
So
I don't know.
I threw a stone. I'd like throw a stone at them or something and kill them.
Okay, so maybe they're throwing fire
or
pots.
shoot them, and then they would burst into flame. I'm like, hang on a minute, did I just waste an ignifer on them? And I didn't. It's just because they're just holding it, which
Right.
But like, I guess the point is you mentioned the dodge roll, right? And I don't want to get too much into this.
No, that's fair.
Basically, I think the combat would be. It's not a combat game, and the combat would be the stealth element would be broken if you had a dodge roll. But then some of the forced combat sections, with the accuracy of the ranged enemies, without a dodge roll, you just end up.
But that's what I mean by when I say I think they think it's a stealth game because they kind of. So what I think you've got there is I think you've got a game that is. Well, I don't know. Correct me if you. I'm not a mathematician here, but I would say it's probably 70% playable in stealth. Maybe. Like there are levels because me and Mick had this discussion. Like, is there a way around some of these things? And we both come to the conclusion: no, you have to fight. Like there are very much fight scenes. Like there's one the first time where they kind of just rush you constantly with enemies.
Yeah,
you do have to. Well, I don't know if you have to kill everyone, but you do have to fight back to do something. You have to trigger something. And that was actually found that it was quite difficult, but because of the sort of slow nature of the combat. But it was fine because it was kind of once. And then I think they repeat that a few more times. But again, it's kind of like it's interspersed. It's like there's 3 or 4 chapters where it's just the game is the game you recognise, but then it will end the chapter with that kind of onslaught of enemies. And again, no story spoilers whatsoever you're going to get here. We'll have to perhaps get into them later in the year. But for now, all I would say is the last sort of few hours of the game, I don't want it last fourth, last third, not even last third. I don't know, but the last bit.
I love that you said fourth. Carry on.
I said a quarter. I don't know why I said that. But it becomes all combat. And the game engine can't handle that. And like there was a particular level... I'll just say on a beach, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I nearly gave up. Like I nearly gave up because I'm like, this is the
interesting thing, right? Because this is where we will talk about it more at Game of the Year, and we need to talk about balance and decisions and things, because there are things in that game that make combat really easy.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes down to your own decisions, but that's not game design because it's to do with skill trees and stuff. So I think
I thought you were talking about something else. Go on.
I don't want to spoil it too much, but like...
No, I thought you were talking about respawning
by all means,
stuff.
people go and read my guides on A Plague Tale Innocence and Requiem, and you'll see what upgrades I think you should get first, and that would literally tell you what I'm talking about. But there are ways in which you can make the combat almost redundant, certainly in the non-combat areas.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the one thing I didn't get.
Sections.
The one thing I was like,
exactly.
And it was like, this is the one I'm going to get next, but I never quite got to get it. And would it be a throwable thing by any chance? That is a throwable version of a jar?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Go read the guide.
Oh no! So do you know what? I do know what you're talking about, and I also discussed that with Mick because is it where you can recover things from bodies?
Mm-hmm.
Never worked for me, never once. It's the first thing I unlocked, and I'm like, because they are in short supply, and yes. I was texting Mick saying, "What am I doing wrong? Do you have to do something? Because there's no prompt." He goes, "Well, you just run over them," and I'm like, "Surely there's a prompt." He goes, "Yeah, but you." I'm like, Never once.
There was. We're getting into minutia, but there's a couple of times in the whole game where they didn't appear for me across multiple enemies, where it's like 95% of the time, I would say.
Because I'm totally with you. I basically,
and I'm convinced that's because the enemy fell on it and I couldn't see it. Not because.
The thing is, I'm worried. We're sort of I'm worried that people who haven't played this we're talking around something they don't know what we're talking about. So we'll come back to this like a game. If you don't know, we do Game of the Year, massive discussions where we will go into this.
Let's step back a bit here.
It's a great game. It's a great game that for me just falls slightly on its sword a bit towards the end.
My experience is probably 9.5. It is a fantastic game.
And mine would be like an 8.5 for the record. So we're not talking really
we're not.
Huge...
And this is you mentioned it. The story...
Lyle's played this, hasn't he? Sorry, he's just been sat there looking a certain way and he's rubbing his hands now. He's played this and not told us.
It's my turn, I believe, to
drop the bombshell. Summarise, but you go first.
Well, let's not summarise because I just had this. He's been looking a certain way while we've been talking.
Yes, I have,
and I've just had this feeling. It's like he's played this and he's not mentioned it. And
I have.
And
he's too smug. I don't like what's coming.
No, I know what's coming. I've got a feeling.
Yeah, you know what's coming. I strongly dislike this game. I strongly dislike this game. This game, I didn't particularly like the first game. It was my first year on the site, and I remember being like, I should play the Game of the Year, like, just while I've not got much to do over the holidays, and being like, not really a fan of this. And if anything, I like this one less. I think it has sort of elements of like very slow moving, almost walking sim stuff towards the start where you're forced to move very slowly through environments and it's tedious to say the very least. Oh, where's this person? Oh, maybe they're by the fountain. They're in a brown top. And just like slow moving, forced conversations, things I hate in every sort of video game that has ever done them. And then you get to stealth sections, which are like what stealth used to be in like 2008, just completely outdated bollocks. The combat's annoying and bad.
The combat's a bit slow. I will say that towards the end, I think the thing that again, sorry, we're not going to spoil it, and I hate to keep talking around it, but I think the reason I didn't like the ending sort of combat sequences is because the combat is by design quite slow. You have to wind up.
It is.
Yeah.
You know,
but it makes sense. Like
no, that's what I mean. It's not a bad thing at all.
It would be weird if she was like some sort of assassin ninja type thing. Yeah. Like that would be worse. Yeah. But yes.
But I do think,
I just feel like this. It feels like a game from like the start of the Xbox 360 generation of like the first Assassin's Creed type thing, where you're like, it's just not really there gameplay wise. It's just it irritates me repeatedly.
I wouldn't dispute some of that.
Yeah.
But I do think it's still worth calling out like the story and the soundtrack and the emotional investment. Like her voice acting, I think is.
I have
don't
things
like
to say about the sound as well.
Okay.
I have a very, very specific problem with the sound that is almost quite interesting, and I don't think many people are going to talk about. This game is chock full of whispering in almost every situation. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of whispering.
Absolutely.
It's whispering all the time. My partner is autistic, and he suffers with something that loads and loads of autistic people struggle with, called misophonia, which is certain noises being sensory hell, and one of those is whispering. Whispering's one of the... If you search for whispering and misophonia and autism on Google, you'll find thousands of people who are like, I can't take whispering, this is fucking horrible.
Well,
like,
is it like ASMR style stuff as well, like that?
Kind of, yeah, like kind of... I mean, it's like... It's kind of like reverse ASMR, It's like, it's sensory hell. This is the first game I've ever had to play where he has to wear headphones and listen to music while it's on, or he can't be in the room.
Because I played most of it with headphones on by choice, and I will say, even I was like notably going. I mean, it's well done, if you know what I mean. Like, I totally get what you're saying, but it is like what they've done there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like games don't do that. Like if you think of like The Last of Us and stuff, where they're kind of creeping around together and they're just like, I really hope nobody sees us here.
Yeah.
Whereas this, it is kind
Yeah.
of like, and it's like actually, but I do, yeah, I can appreciate that's not
And yeah,
not a good thing for you guys.
It's unfortunately very much an accessibility issue, and it was
Yeah.
something where I've not really like thought about it much in games because
No.
it's never really come up as a thing. But like with how many people struggle with this as well, like it's something that accessibility settings in the future, especially, it would be very good if that was an option.
It's a difficult one to. I mean, the only way I can really think of solving it is one that you mute the dialogue and it's auto soundtracked, or two is you have to do a second pass of the dialogue where there's no whispering.
It's difficult. Don't get me wrong. It would be a lot of work, but at the same time, like it was unfortunate. I also found the soundtrack quite annoying in general, and I mean, it's hard because I don't really like any of the characters either. So it's hard to be like, oh well, this voice actor's good because I'm just like they're annoying. Like I don't want to hear from them. I don't like this game much, guys.
I think that's coming across. I tell you what, you're articulating it very well. It's almost anger, I would say.
Yeah, well, I played like 2 hours of it today, and I could have played something else, and it would have been really nice to play something else.
Oh man, do you know what? I know where that feels. I don't know if we want to move on, but I can certainly move on to that exact same feeling. Unless Chris would like to speak some more about it. And
no, there are things that the whispering thing I think is a really interesting conversation, but there are things where I think, and this is always the case. Things like that you bring up, Lyle, I'm like, there are parts I find hard to disagree with, just not to the extent that you have amplified the annoyance. But I adore Amicia and adore Amicia and Hugo's relationship, and I love how this story, how it ends. I love the story. I love the voice acting, and I really like it. There are things about it that
it's not a perfect game.
No,
and I don't think anyone's claiming such at all. But
I really, really enjoyed it, and I think it looks really, really
it's
nice
a good-looking game. Yeah. And also, and it was pointed out in the chat, and I should mention it because this is what I always like it when third-party games do this. But the DualSense stuff on PS5,
DualSense is fantastic.
Did you try it in the end?
You told me to.
Yeah, and I didn't know if you did though or not. It's
so good.
Really good. Yeah, like the little pitter patter. But again, I can actually wonder if that would have been a bad thing for Lars as well because of the sort of sensory.
Yeah, because it got to the point where I'd start shitting myself.
Yeah,
because I'd be like, oh my god, the rats are nearby because I can feel them in my hands. I know I'm walking above them, and I was like, this is great. Like this.
No, the DualSense stuff is magic.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah.
I would say it's up there with the likes of the one that I'd really say like that does the DualSense stuff is like Returnal on PS5, and I'd say it's up there with that kind of quality.
It reminded me of Astro.
Yeah, it's again, and that's literally an advert almost for the DualSense. So that's for high praise indeed. I would tell you what, another game that does do the DualSense stuff quite well on PC, believe it or not, as well, is Gotham Knights. And it's really weird because if you go to our website, there's a review of it with 8 out of 10 on it. But I was also playing it, and I reviewed it for freelance, and I didn't like it. And it was like the more I played, the less I liked it. It wasn't like, well, I'll keep going.
I've heard very mixed things about this. Like literally,
I can see
I see some people love it, and some people are like, I'm not sure. So I'm really interested to hear.
It's kind of dull. I can't think of a single thing that would make me go play this instead of that. Like if you want that kind of open world adventure where your movements are thing, go play Spider-Man or Miles Morales. To be honest with you, go play Gotham Knights because that game does it better. Like in this, you start off as one of the 4 not Batmans, and you basically the only way you have to get what they've done at the start here, right, is they've given you a world akin to those Arkham-sized open world games, right? But they've removed all of Batman's traversal mechanics, except for the grapple that you just shoot to things, and you can kind of grapple to anywhere really, within reason. But it's cumbersome and slow and awkward. Like, you never go quite where you want to go because it's grappling to a point. Eventually, you unlock a sort of additional movement thing for each of the 4 not Batmans. And, like, with Batgirl, you get a cape, so you can do the thing, the Batman sort of, It's like she's a bloody lead weight or a tank in the air, and like I failed to do that. Like there's a thing like continue the knighthood missions to do this, and one of them was like go and. All these sort of games do it. Crackdown does this with the movement, like where you've got to go through the glowing circles on a course. I couldn't do it because I just kept failing it because I couldn't get it to go in the direction I wanted to do. And then I was like, well, hang on, does it want me to zip line through and then Batgirl? And I tried that, and I just ended up. I was like, I'm just getting angry. I'm getting angry doing this. This is infuriating how she moves, and it's not just her. Like the game feels sticky. Like you know when you like Spider-Man or
That's
Batman and you're
never a
on
good
a rail.
But
Well,
what do you mean?
know when you're on like a railing on the edge of a building in Spider-Man or Batman style game, and it's like I'm trying to get off that railing.
I see.
And it's like, nope, sorry, you've snapped to the other one because you were near a corner. It's like, no, I don't want to be on here at all.
Oh yeah, that's my idea on that.
And it's like
annoying,
this feels really out of time. The combat is all right. Okay, it's all right.
There's a box quote.
But the thing is, people will get upset because you're comparing it to the Arkham games, right? But it's a Batman. Well, it's not
have
a Batman
to.
game. What else do you? What's the yardstick to compare it to if you're not comparing it to those games? They made one of those games.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
This is the studio that made one of those games. So they kind of replaced the triangle or the kind of reversal move, the counter.
Yeah.
That's just gone, completely gone. So all you were doing is let's say on a PlayStation controller, you have square, that's melee, and triangle is ranged. So to do a heavy attack, you hold square, or so you can just tap, 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 hold. And it's the same with the range. Triangle is like, you just throw batarangs, hold it does like a heavy ranged. And circles you dodge, right? So what you end up doing is just mashing square a lot, and then hitting circle to dodge when you see the... And again, you can tell me not to compare it. They've used the same animations, man. When you finish off the last... All right, you tell me what happens when you finish the last blow on the last person in a Batman Arkham encounter. What happens?
It's been a while.
Well, it goes
it's
into
the
slow
slowdown
motion,
thing, isn't
slow
it?
and the
motion.
camera will
Because
spin.
to be fair, it's the same in Spider-Man.
Yeah, no,
They do it in
absolutely is.
Spider-Man.
No, it is, absolutely is. But it does that. It's got the when they're going to attack you.
So how dare you compare it?
Like, it does the thing where when they're going to attack you is a very visible icon. There's the heavies that you have to break them with like a heavy attack, otherwise they've got a shield up or whatever.
But I guess the point is on this, because that stuff you're talking about with like certain enemies and stuff, and sorry to interrupt you, but like
No.
That's literally in like the Spider-Man stuff, but it works because you move around and feel like a badass with the combos that you do.
No,
so then when you
doesn't.
actually finish a thing, you haven't just mashed square for ages. You've been doing loads of things to swing around, web them and stuff like that, because so you feel awesome when you're doing it. Like it doesn't sound like there's that depth unless I've misunderstood what you're talking about.
No, so you upgrade things that like. So I will say I'll get the two things out right away that I think are really good about this game. The first one is that I think the co-op's
so we
excellent.
can get back to the shit stuff.
Yeah, no, kind of.
Sorry, carry on.
The co-op's excellent. Like I think the co-op is done in a really, really good way. It's exactly how I would want it to be. You can jump into someone's world who are higher level than you, and it will level you out, or rather, it levels the enemies out so that you can do damage. But so can they. Like it's really
so it just
it's
equals
adaptive.
the damage depending on
on your level. So although it might because I was level like 10 or something when I jumped into Chris's game and they had like level 20 or whatever, and I was like, I'm going to get battered. But no, my attacks were doing relevant damage,
equivalent damage.
Equivalent. It was, the adaptive difficulty is great. I will also say that the four heroes, whether you like them or not, whether you care that they're not Batman or not, they are all unique. You are still doing the same thing. You are still doing the same button mashing. You are still doing the same, like you hold down R1 or right bumper and you press a you hold one of the face buttons or you tap them, and there's I think they're called momentum skills, and they all feel cool. Like Robin he can clone himself and dash off, and like Batgirl's got skill where she's like she can hack right from the start because she's supposed to be the stealth one. Well, so is Robin, but you know what I mean, the different kinds. You can unlock a skill very quickly for Batgirl that means you can just walk through cameras because they just don't see you, that sort of stuff. So it's kind of cool how unique they all feel. But it just like it doesn't feel very good to me. It just does not feel very good. Like there's a bat cycle, okay? And you press up on the D-pad and the bat cycle just warps in if you're near a road, and you jump on it, and they do this thing where there's like speed lines in the corners, like, shh, oh, you're going really fast. But you're really not. Like, it's really slow, because there was a point where I was going across a bridge from like one part of Gotham to another, and I could barely overtake a fucking Gotham taxi. And it's got this thing, and again, I kind of don't know whether I like or don't like this, but obviously it's quite they tried to make Gotham feel quite claustrophobic in a way, because it's it's that sort of dingy darkness, and there's not lots of cars, but like you smashing into one of the bikes never fun. So if you hold down X, you do a wheelie, and then you just drive over it. You just drive over the car, if it teaches you this at the start of the game, and I don't know if I like that or not. But even that, like,
Sounds quite funny.
It is funny, but the thing is, it gets to me because it's so slow that after like 5 or 6 hours even, it's like it's not funny anymore. It's just really slow, and I'm having to go from all the way to the... Thank God you can unlock fast travel, because I think I would have given up. I genuinely think if I didn't unlock fast travel, I would have given up, because the traversal, getting around that large map, is not fun. Not fun at all. It also, I don't understand why it's a fucking loot game. I don't understand why it's a loot game. Why couldn't they have just given you like skill trees but made them more interesting instead of, made you level up your character and it made you a bit stronger, and they could have done it so that like like Red Hood, when you level him up, because he's a stronger big guy, he's like more physical, so it's like the XP gets you level up, and it gets like in other games, strength bone, like an RPG, Yeah. Why couldn't they have done that? Why have you got to like, you're going around like the main missions, and there's just some random chest there that you unlock, and it just gives you a load of like shit that helps you. I
kind of think this is the issue as well with people saying like don't compare it to the Arkham games, because it's like, okay, well then I guess I should focus on like, well, maybe the loot makes it loads better because it's a loot game, and it sounds like it really doesn't. So like, why would you not compare it to at least those parts?
I found myself like you're not allowed to compare it to a good game.
Well, no, I found myself like looking at the loot sort of stuff at one point, and I was like, why am I doing this in a Batman? Well, I keep saying Batman game. Why am I doing this in a Batman universe game? Why am I not skulking around the shadows? And it's like what they've done is they've taken Batman as he was in Arkham Knight or the Arkham series, right, and compartmentalized them into 4 individual characters who kind of have a bit of the Batman's gameplay in them. Like Robin can eventually unlock a move. Well, not eventually. It's like a few hours in, you can unlock it. It carries XP across. So if you're playing 6 hours as Batgirl and you switch to Robin for the first time, you're going to have a load of ability points you can unlock with him. So, but that also has a counter effect of whereas you're learning how to use the new abilities, and then when you switch across, you're suddenly like, I've got 10 AP. I can just unlock everything, and I don't remember any of it. But Robin can eventually, and this is, Kieran in the chat is like, you have to unlock the universe unique travel methods. Yes, you do, for all of them. Individually, by the way. So once you've unlocked Batgirls, you haven't unlocked Robin's teleport. You have to go and do them each individually, which involves going in a training room as well for each one of them as well.
Oh, God.
But like the thing I think of when I look back at the Batman games, like when I think back to like Arkham Asylum, like that first one where everyone was like, "My God, we've got good superhero games all of a sudden." I look back at that, and the memories, the coolest memories I have is being perched on like a gargoyle style thing in a building, pressing, I think it was triangle, but it was an Xbox, so it would have been Y, I think, and dashing down and doing the Spider-Man thing that they nicked, but where they're like hanging up there like that. You have to unlock that as Robin.
Of course you do.
That's part of a skill tree. That's part of his skill tree. Now you can do silent takedowns from above.
It just feels like they just sort of barricaded the fun off a little bit.
Yep.
Like, all this stuff you mentioned, it's like, I mean, the fact that you said you thank God there's fast travel, and we've talked at length that you don't fast travel in the Spider-Man game.
Exactly what I was about to say. Not once.
And it's
once for the trophy.
Once for the trophy.
Yeah, and then never again.
That was it.
Even when I re-reviewed it on PC, I'm like, well, I'll do it once for the achievement on Steam.
Yeah.
Never again. Why would you? And I know you're not Spider-Man, but you're sort of supposed to be one of Batman's, kin almost. And I don't know how they took... You can't tell me...
I mean, you'd argue that bats should be better in the air than spiders.
Well, yes. I don't... You cannot tell me that they didn't look at the Arkham series for inspiration or for the base, right? You just can't. So how did they not get this stuff right? Because even in their Arkham game, the combat was good. I know people talk about it like it wasn't as good as the others, but I think that's a little bit of revisionist history and people going like, oh, well, it's not a Rocksteady game, so it's not very good. It was actually good. Like, there's some really good stuff in that game. I don't know how this has missed so hard for me. I don't. Like, it feels cumbersome, awkward, everything about it. And like I say, the longer I played, the more annoyed I would get. I would just... Like, when you do... The main missions are fine. Like, the main missions are okay. Like, it's quite fun. Like, sneaking around, but the stealth doesn't really work properly either. And again, in a Batman game, like, I should be able to pick you off, and then when I fuck up, it's my fault and my mistake, and I'm in red hot combat, and that's fine. It's just it's not a bad game. Like, it's not. Like, it's mechanically mostly works. I had some bugs, but mechanically it's fine. But it's just really forgettable. It's really forgettable, and like, that is not the thing I want from this style of game. It's way closer to the Avengers than it is to the Arkham games, and make of that what you will.
I mean, it sounds to me like I will have to give it a go, but it sounds to me like I'd play it and go, I wish I was playing Spider-Man.
But that's what I mean. Like, there is no part of this game where you don't think to yourself, so and so did this bit better. Yeah,
and that wasn't that. The point, I guess, the point is as well, that's not a long time ago.
No.
So you go, that happened recently, and
if you're a PC player, that's brand new to you.
True.
And Miles Morales is out soon as well.
Mm-hmm.
I find it really, really hard to recommend this game. I don't hate it. Like, it's just...
No, I've heard people say that the co-op makes it a lot better. Traversal blocking is crap. Basically, all the things you've said, that's what I've heard people say, and it just, it resonates.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like I'd rather be playing something else, because there's lots to play right now, is kind of how you end up feeling.
Yeah, I don't want to... Yeah, I mean, let's move on, because I don't want to spend... I don't like shitting on games. I really don't. It's not a fun thing, but, like, it's just...
Unfortunately, now we have to talk about Sparks of Hope. So
yes, no. So Sparks of Hope. Did I talk on the podcast about how I was? No, I think I did with the preview chat. Did I do the preview chat with you where I said I think it could be a case of this. The difficulty was because of the way they laid the preview out.
I remember you saying something about that, definitely.
So it was exactly that. The difficulty in this game is actually pretty decent. Like, it was the way they... Like, let's put it this way. In the preview, when I went to play it, when I played the second half, the characters, I believe, started at level 10. When I got to that section on my own volition, on my own game, I was level 15.
Yeah.
You know, and I hadn't done everything, but I do like to do... As I said on the preview chat, I like to do the stuff. I like to do the content. I like to play the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not here to rush through a game and get to the end of it. I want to play it how I play it, which is enjoy the content as and when it appears and what I feel like doing in an open world game. And this is the difficulty is actually, I think, better than the first game now. Now I've played it personally, start to finish. The difficulty is actually, I think, better. It's a really nice game. Like, I do love the sense of humour. The only thing about it that I think lets it down a little bit is in the first game, it was this massive kind of shock that, oh my god, Nintendo's letting someone else make a Mario game? And that... It came with some, like, really weird stuff. Like, you know, you're seeing it on the screen, like, the repetition... This stuff repeats, like, all these little scenes. But, like, it is still got that wackiness to it, right? But it's kind of dialed way back. I'm a fan of Ubisoft, but this has become a Ubisoft game. It's become a checklist game though. You go and you go, right, I've done that. Okay, I'm on the next island now, or I'm going to do all of that, but now it's on this island instead. For better or for worse, some people won't mind it. I think it's a little bit lacking in the creativity that the first one had. I think back to one of the boss fights where he sings the whole time you're playing it, and it's just tremendous, and you're like, this is just, they've got it, they've nailed this is spot on. There's kind of nothing like that. Like, you know, in this, the boss fight I played at the preview build, where you just do the boss fight 3 times, it's like, they do that a few times, like, they just move the room around a bit, and it's like, phase 2, same thing again, like, that's as creative as you could get, like, it's just a little cutscene transitioning, it's like, But it's a really, really good game. Like, it's the thing about this game that I think sings the loudest is the gameplay. As much as it's fun and I enjoy it and it looks lovely, it's a beautiful looking game. The actual tactics gameplay is superb, superb. because of the titular sparks of hope that you can apply to any one of your characters before any battle and mix and match and with your abilities and your skill trees and all that sort of stuff. All of that means you have got this really malleable game that you can genuinely have a totally different experience to someone else because you like this character with this spark and those abilities, and it makes for a really good. And again, a bit like I mentioned with Gotham Knights, one thing this game does brilliantly is often in this type of game, you kind of have your 3 or 4 heroes that you use over and over again. They've got the abilities, like Mario's got the XCOM style, ability where he can hit people from cover sort of thing when it's not his turn because he's gone into Overwatch. But they've all got their uses. Like every one of the characters, bar one I used very little, but of the 9, 8 of them I would genuinely be like, I kind of want to use all of them at once because they're sort of so cool and so unique. You almost always have either Rabbid, Peach, or Peach in your party because Rabbid Peach is a healer, and Peach herself she can't heal, but she can, like, her ability is to give all of you a shield which negates damage for 3 turns. So, like, they're both really interesting. You kind of don't want them both because then you're losing out on the other elements. Oh, to be honest with you, Luigi's the star because once you get him really leveled up and, like, all his abilities unlocked, he's a beast. Dude's a beast.
He's always a star, and let's be honest.
He kind of is, but it's really fun. Like, it only really lets itself down by having the combat is painfully slow. I played the entire game with the combat on fast forward so that when the enemy took their turns, it was like double speed and it was still too slow. And when you get towards the end and you start to encounter enemies who can summon other enemies, and when it gets really kind of angry at you towards the end, and there's these portals throughout the game that can summon in 1 to 3 enemies. You never know how many, but they come in. And like towards the end, they go a bit mad with that, and so you are watching turns of just like shoom shoom shoom. It's like, yeah, I'm not really paying any attention because there's nothing I can do because they also commit that cardinal sin for me in an RPG where they let them summon something on their turn and they also get to act on their turn, and that's a sin for me in an RPG. It's like letting you have 2 turns essentially, and that's not a thing that it's sort of lets you do in the rest of the game. It also kind of front loads its ideas. Like you unlock a new hero in the first world, the second world, the third world, and then you're done. It's just right. There's 2 more worlds here, 2 more islands, and that's it now. Just do them. You know what you're doing because you've played the other 3, and that's a bit of a shame. I don't know why they stopped there. I mean, they will definitely release Heroes as DLC. I think they did with the last one. It's a really, really fun, lovely game. There's loads of stuff to do. I think I was 25 hours when I saw credits, but there must be. I reckon I could get that again out of it. Probably, maybe not quite that, but not far off that. The open worlds are better. There's genuine little puzzles. Some of them I gave up on one puzzle because it was so annoying. There's a few little things where it's like I don't know if it's a case of this studio hasn't made this kind of game that often. So for most of the game, you are using. Like Chris, you'd have a healer in your party, right?
100%.
You can heal with other people, but you have to find the sparks that allow you to kind of. You basically you get one that turns your gun into a vampiric gun, so that it sucks your health out. There's also one spark that's for reviving characters, and you don't get that till 20+ hours in. Because of the whole game, I've been thinking, it's really weird that you just can't revive. Like, there's no item you can use to revive. It's just if they go down in a battle, they're gone. That's it. You've got to, hopefully, to get through it with 2 or 1 in some cases. But there is a spark that lets you revive. But, like, 20 hours in? Like, I think I used it 3 or 4 times.
At that point, you've probably mastered not either coping or not dying, right?
I kind of got used to it. So I'm like, well, I did use it a few times, and I always had it equipped. Because it is, you've got to have it equipped. It's a revive. But it comes too late for it to make a huge difference. I really like this game. I think it's adorable. It's fun. Rabbid Mario and Luigi are my faves. Rabbid Mario is great. There's a scene in it, right? I wouldn't normally spoil anything, but I've got it because people might not play this because there's a lot going on. There's a scene in it, I think it's third world, where you have to go through like a dark, foreboding forest. and they're all kind of asking the question was, how are we going to get through this? And Rabbid Mario just suggests burning the entire forest down, and because that will make it bright enough for them to be able to walk through. And like Beepo, the avatar you technically play as, he's like, never give Rabbid Mario a match, everybody. It's like this, an arson joke in like, do you know what I mean? It's almost like in Beavis and Butthead, where it's like fire, fire, fire. It's like they make and there's the other bit. It made me laugh every time when they do their attacks. They've got like shouts like you would have for most RPGs, I guess, and it made me laugh every time. So Rabbid Mario sounds even more kind of stereotypically like Italian pizza dude than, but when he's got things called the Dukes and he punches. So he goes 1, 2, 4, and it just every single time he did it. The stupidity of it got me. Like, it really cracked me up, and it's just an adorable game. Like I say, lacks a little bit of the creativity of the first one, and is a bit formulaic. But if you enjoyed the first one, you'll love this. That's all I can talk about this week. So, Lyle, over to you, mate. What else have you been playing that you didn't? Is there anything you didn't hate this week?
There's definitely something I didn't hate this week. I think we should say that I'm going to say that this is secretly the reason we couldn't do a podcast last week, because I needed every waking hour of my life to be able to finish Persona 5 Royale on, I played it on Steam Deck all the way through. Finally, it happened because it was portable, and that's what everyone needed for that game. And I mean, there's not a lot to say that hasn't been said before, but like essentially it's like pretty much as good as Persona 4 is my is the essence of my review. I gave it a 10. It's amazing. It's like one of the best turn-based RPGs I can think of ever playing. Like, it's got a great story. The pacing I think is a lot better than Persona 4 in like it doesn't start quite as slow. Like, you get characters quicker, you like sort of get stuck in quicker. It's not like sort of like 4 hours of story before much happens. Like it gets going pretty fast. And there's just so much I love about it. Like, when I think of pretty much any Persona or even Shin Megami Tensei game, I think of like, and you go to a dungeon and it is flat corridors that you walk through and fight enemies until so maybe a couple of more interesting things happen along the way, but it's like, it's pretty much like you're in a dungeon, you're walking around, you'll find a chest every so often, you'll have a fight every so often. And in this, like, the palaces that you go into, which is sort of what they're called, they're like almost like pseudo stealth games, kind of like you can take cover to then ambush enemies to get the drop on them. There's loads of verticality, like you'll just be climbing up walls and stuff. There's no flatness at all. You've got like a grappling hook to get to secret areas and stuff like that. And there's always puzzles to solve, and just things to explore. And all the characters are great. The social links and all that sort of stuff. It's still just as engaging to have that like downtime between fighting demons where you're like, who will I try to make more friends with now? Who will I like, or should I stay in because it's raining so I'll get more stats up for studying? It's just amazing. If you've never played a Persona game, you kind of don't know what you're missing in terms of JRPGs. Like, they really are like the cream of the crop. They're so stylish. They've got like the best music, the best combat. I had to play this game a lot to get through it, and I didn't ever feel bad about that. I wasn't thinking, oh, I wish I was playing insert other review game or insert other game that came out this year that I want to get through. Like, I was always like, well, no, I want to play Persona 5 because it's amazing. And I love it.
I mean, I've little to add because I talked about it before, but I don't agree. Strong agree, as the kids say.
Yeah.
I'm impressed you finished it. Well, someone says it somewhere on the internet, I expect, don't they?
Yeah, I think so. I think it sounds like something the youth say nowadays. Yeah, I mean, you have talked a lot, Adam, before about like how this was the game you like wouldn't ever be able to finish until they did it portably. Yeah. Like, it's been a big thing of like, everyone completed Persona 4 other than, well, I mean, I technically beat it on the PS2, but everyone really beat it on like the Vita when it was finally portable, and they had this like updated version and everything. And now it has finally happened with Persona 5, and it's brilliant. And
I'm really glad to hear it. I still think I probably will never finish it, but I've got it on Switch. I will one day find some time. One day. Before I forget, actually, we did have a super chat from Mikhail on 179 Indian rupees. Instead of reading the guides, go interrupt Chris. That was about. But I didn't interrupt you, Chris. I'm sorry. Let everyone down.
I don't think Chris minds that much.
No, I've not. I could talk about, but I'm not going to this week, a bit of Bayonetta 3 because I've previewed it. Just go and read that, and I'll have more to say on that game soon. Other than that, if everyone's ready, are we all ready? Because it's time for
Hyde. Listen to Correspondence. It's time. It's time. Chris Hyde. Okay, I always have a lag, so I never know, when it's finished. So I always look for your thrust.
Yes.
And that tells me. So I can just see me perving in the sun now on my phone.
No,
so first question this week comes from G-Town Steve. He asks, how important is 60 FPS in modern gaming? Should people be bothered about the lack of a higher frame rate option?
Well, this has been a big thing, hasn't it, recently because of Gotham Knights, and I think a little bit of Plague Tale. Because something I saw, I think it was on Reddit, is that everyone's having a go at Gotham Knights for not being 60. It is on PC, by the way. I should just say that it does run at 60 frames on PC. But it's 30 on consoles. And I think people are sort of saying, well, hang on, that game is just getting pilloried for it, and Plague Tale isn't, and it's the same. Plague Tale doesn't run at 60 on consoles. However, what I would say is I've also seen comments saying that with Gotham Knights, I'm pretty sure that at some point there was comment about that game. That's why it didn't come to last gen, because it wouldn't run on last gen. And then there was this whole thing with like one of the developers went on Twitter and said something about the Series S, like fuck the Series S or something and all that.
Yeah,
and it was there's probably an element of truth that you have to develop for the lowest end. But you're developing for PC, so you're kind of developing so that people on the lower end of PC can play as well, aren't you? So I don't know. So how important is 60 FPS? I think it's just come up now because most games were offering the option to say, well, I want to favour resolution or performance. And now all of a sudden we've got two kind of high-profile games that aren't doing that.
Yeah, I never used to be bothered, right, at all. So should people be bothered? I never used to be bothered. I never used to be able to tell the difference until it became a lot more prevalent, the difference between the two in my eyes. But I do think the game matters. The type of game we're talking about, it matters.
Yeah.
Like, I care much less about a game like Plague Tale being at 30 than a game like Gotham or Spider-Man or something being at 30.
But you played Plague Tale on PC, so you probably did get the 60.
Yeah. So I heard about this performance and I was like, really? I was like, oh, whatever. But I remember because I played Immortals on performance, and then I literally played the whole game, and then I remember flipping it back to the other mode, and I was like, holy, because that's obviously a fast combat game, and I was like, just beat up some enemies, and I was like, oh my god, I could not, in my mind, I couldn't have played this entire game like this, but I would have obviously been okay. But I think where there is fast-paced reactions and movement, which tend to be like combat-type games, like a Devil May Cry for me has to be at 60 FPS. That type of game for me is where I would say it's more important. There are other games that are slower paced where I would say it's less important. It's just people like to say it, but that's my controversial opinion on it. I think it definitely makes a difference, but I think there's different games you should be more bothered by it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think there's a really easy answer of like, when is it important? Is like, well, do you think it's important? Like, are you someone who notices it? Because if you don't, or if you like have never really minded that much, then it's fine. And if you do, then play games that are 60 if it's really bad for you. Like, you do have the option. There's a lot of games out there. Like, for me personally, like, you know, I think I kind of lean in the same side as you, Chris, in that like certain games I expect it in certain ways. Like, I think, to be honest, I think like steady frame rate is probably more important than
frame pacing as well. I
Yeah.
don't like micro stutter. That to me is poor optimization.
Yeah.
I'm with you both. I'm with you both pretty much, but I don't know. Like, I kind of feel we've almost wrought this upon ourselves, because it looks to me, because I played Gotham on PC, so I had a higher frame rate. I did actually have a quick look at the PS5 version. That it's noticeably chunky in that respect. But I feel like we've almost done this to ourselves because of the fascination with 4K. And my feeling is that Gotham Knights have probably gone for the kind of, we want to go for these amazing looking visuals, in 4K Gotham City, and that means because that tends to be what happens with most of these multi-platform games, is that when you pick performance mode, you're getting a lower scaled visual resolution-wise, upscaled with your telly or the internals of the consoles, but you're getting the faster frame rate. And then if you switch to that's what you're describing when you talk about Immortals. That's what it is.
Absolutely,
It's swapping
100%.
one for the other.
Yeah.
And I think we've kind of brought that upon ourselves by chasing that kind of, it needs to be 4K and look amazing. It's like,
It's the numbers game, isn't it? It's the announceables for new consoles. We have chased that, not us, but
people
the
have.
industry has chased it.
People don't sell TVs as, it can do 120 FPS. They don't. They don't sell TVs based on 120 hertz. They sell them based on, and it's true 4K, just like it was true full HD back then. So that's the market. So I don't blame them for going. Why they had to pick, I don't know. I would like an option to pick performance, even if it's to get it above 30, but even if it's to target 60. I would like that option in a video game. But I come from PC games, so
I always think the choice one is the best solution. That was quite elegant when it was first came out, right? It's like you literally get, and sometimes they, like you say, some of them have like 3 or 4, don't they? They say, well, you can select. It's not just binary. It's like these different types of setups, different levels of performance and stuff. And I just think, just let people choose.
So Sony do it very well on their first party stuff, and it's a bit unfair because it's first party stuff. It's designed for PlayStation. Yeah. But they do it quite well. Like, I've played first party games where I always pick performance, and like I wouldn't know it wasn't 4K. Like, even on a really nice TV, their games look great, but they're first party, so it's a bit unfair. But I haven't really noticed any big issues with that until like Gotham and Plague Tale, which I played on PS5, which it did get a bit chunky at times. I think this is just a coincidence that 2 of those games.
Yeah.
I don't think it will be going back that way anytime soon. So, hope not.
Okay. Mikhail has got, rudely, questions for us all. Questions for you, Adam, and questions for you, Lar, but no questions for me this week. So, whatever. I'm definitely not taking that to heart. So, the first one is a question to all of us. Best thing to eat/drink when you just went to the dentist? It's a freaking weird question.
It's an odd question. Also, I can't remember the last time I went to the dentist, as a fun fact.
Sure, for me, it's odd. I have a really. It depends what you've had at the dentist. Like, if you've had just a checkup and everything's all right, I just go, fuck it. I'll have whatever I fucking want.
Unless you're
clean
told
bill of health
not
for 6 months, I'm laughing. If I've just had like a filling and I feel like I've got a massive hole in my mouth or something, then probably just soup or something, because I won't be able to swallow anything else. But
it's quite issue dependent, really, isn't it? But I mean, I think
probably not like
ice cream and soup.
Yeah, probably not like really like claggy toffee or something.
No, or just do that.
Rip out the filling or something.
Don't worry about it and have the toffees. If you like toffee, do it.
Oh, there's actually another question just come in live. I don't know if I'll read it because I've just seen it. Super chat from Mikhail. Plague Tale for free via Game Pass, or would you go PlayStation or PC just for that DualSense? I'd go DualSense. Sorry. I'd go DualSense. Sorry, I would.
Yeah, no,
I think it enhanced the game.
I think that DualSense stuff is really good, and I think like I said earlier, I think the way it combines with like all the rats and stuff, because it does it with like the rain and stuff like that, which is also really clever, and the footsteps and rustling in the bushes. But it's the rat stuff for me when it was doing that, and I was like, "Fucking hell, these rats are close," kind of thing. Like that really, it kind of. It's when the DualSense sort of blends in with the emotion of the game almost, and I was just like, "That's really clever." The way it's simple, but it kind of marries. So I would say Game Pass on PC with a DualSense controller.
Great answer.
That's a good shout. I mean, I'd say Game Pass because I can't imagine paying money for that game. But I mean, we got into that earlier, didn't we? I don't need to get angry again, do I?
So we're going. That's the dentist question done. So then, Lyle, your questions for Mikhail is, I mean, I know the answer to half this question. Now that you've played Persona 5 Royal, is it better than Breath of the Wild? Yes. And also better than other Nintendo Switch games? Doesn't say which ones, just all of them.
In general. I mean, there aren't a lot of games I can think of that I would call better than it. So, sure, it's better than the entire Switch library because I think he'll appreciate that.
Even better than Deadly Premonition 2, which is on record and video as being your favourite Switch game.
Yeah, even better than that. Also better than Mario Odyssey, I guess. I don't know if this is really true, but I'm saying like it for now because I really like it. And yeah.
Okay, and then finally, because I'm skipping over the next question, which boss did you beat in Elden Ring last? You can remember.
I mean, whichever one I beat last when we last talked about it, because I've been playing so much Persona that how am I supposed to?
That's fair.
Adam,
yeah.
How shit does Gotham Knights look on Steam Deck?
Don't know, mate. Doesn't work on Steam Deck at the moment. Last time I checked, it didn't work. So
it looks like a black screen of shite.
I don't know. At the time of recording, I'm hoping they've updated it and it does work. They haven't spoken about whether it'll work on Steam Deck. Having played it on my PC, I have no reason to believe it couldn't run on the lower resolution and 30 to 40 frames. I don't know why it doesn't work. I don't know if there's some anti-cheat stuff in there. I don't know, but it just doesn't boot. It tries to boot, and then it just goes back to the Steam menu. So, don't know. Maybe they've updated it. Maybe someone else can tell me. I will check to that later today, see if it's got an update, but I'm not going to continually check to see if a game works on there that I don't really want to play any more of. So.
Fair.
Sorry.
Apology accepted.
I mean, it doesn't work. I can't do anything about it. Last time I checked, it just doesn't.
It's an honest answer. It's better that than blagging. So, what do you think of Sony's PC ports all coming with modern PC features? They're good ports and they work on deck versus the competition.
What does it mean? What do you mean by versus the competition?
I don't know. If I'm honest, and Mick, if I've misunderstood the question, please shout because maybe I was just being thick. I think what he's saying is that I think he's just saying versus other formats, they're good ports, good features, and they work on Steam Deck. So it's like, why would you play them anywhere else, kind of thing?
But,
what do you think about it?
I feel like it's a trick question because, like, it's good, right? It's fantastic that more people are getting to play Uncharted 4, Lost Legacy, Spider-Man, soon Sackboy, Miles Morales. Eventually, they've leaked enough times. Returnal's bound to be coming.
Oh, right. Okay, so I think he's saying compared to Microsoft games on deck.
Well, I think
so. How well Sony are doing of putting stuff on PC and deck versus Microsoft.
You see, it's difficult for me to comment on the Microsoft situation because I have all their first-party games on Xbox, if you will, which is and then on PC via the Microsoft app, which doesn't work on Steam Deck because it's Windows-based. So I'm not going to go and buy Sea of Thieves, Gears 5, Halo, or any of the other first-party games, again, just to be able to play them on deck, especially when most of them I've finished. So I don't really know, but I will say I've written the lion's share of kind of the Sony PC reviews, and I'll be honest with you, I'll have a look at Sackboy when we get hold of that, because I didn't write about it, but like I'm running out of ways of saying it, if you know what I mean. It's just like, these are games I've played before, lots of people have played before, and they run fucking brilliantly on PC and on Steam Deck. Like, I'm running out of superlatives to describe how these games run, because they're doing the work. They're doing the work.
You basically just need like a paragraph that you copy and paste into them all,
Kinda, like, because they've hit a really good stride where they all just work. They have a decent frame rate. Uncharted it's still shocking. Like Spider-Man was the one for me. Playing it pre-release was like, this is mad that this looks and runs this well. And then Uncharted does that again. You're like, you know, in the beginnings of Lost Legacy, where you're in the sort of, I think it's set in India, isn't it? In the early stages, I want to say. I can't remember. It might be because I know
I've not played it. So I'm gonna say yes.
Well, wherever it's set,
right.
wherever it's set, like it's a night time and there's like neon lights and everything, and it looks great. Right. And it's it looks great on that Steam Deck, like, and it's like you kind of got the best of both worlds, because if you've got a really good PC rig and you've got like your ultra wide support, and I think that's fantastic, and then you can just do the cloud save stuff and carry on the deck. So it's like, what do I think of it? I think it's great, and I think Sony should continue it. I think they do. People might not think it's good for fans, but ultimately it's giving PlayStation users their games first, and then about a year later they're giving them to PC players as well. And it's still a thing you can't play on Xbox for PC players, if that makes sense. So, and also, let's be honest, Sony's first party output's pretty great, generally speaking. Not always, but generally. And they're worth waiting for. If you don't want to go and spend £500 on a PlayStation, they're worth waiting for.
And it's also not as simple as just wait. Still, not just saving up £500 to get one either.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great.
Last question then for you, Adam, is if you could change one thing about your Steam Deck, what would it be?
Can I only have one? Because there's two things I'd change.
Well, go on then.
Battery life, but that's the thing with every handheld ever. And the bumpers. The bumpers are a bit squishy, and I don't like them very much. And they're not bad. They're not bad, but they can be better.
But they're not perfect.
No, they're just not. Everything else about that thing feels really like high end and well made and brilliant, and the bumpers just feel weirdly squishy, like an afterthought. That's it for me.
Okay, and then the last question today is from McPoo. It says, I've got a MetaQuest 2 today. What game or app is going to blow my mind?
Am I the only one that can answer this?
I think you're the only one who can answer this, yeah.
Resi 4 in VR is terrific. That's really good. Beat Saber is every bit as good as you will have heard everyone wank on about how great it is. It's really cool and it's good for you. Keeps you fit. But my answer is going to be an app, not a game. Google Earth VR, right? Get hold of that, and in VR, that thing is quite... I've said this before on the pod, so I'm repeating myself, but it's oddly emotional. Being able to, in your headset, come in and out of the world, so to speak, and go right down to your street level, or go and visit places that have been mapped really well. You know how people talk about Flight Simulator and how they've done the airports and all that?
Yeah.
It's not like that for everything, because, we all use Google Maps and had a look at the satellite of where we live, and if probably where we live, none of them are done very well, but there are places you can go to. And Google Earth is like... It's odd. It's odd because it gives you that sort of that sense of how small you truly are. But yeah, there's like Resi 4. Like I say, there's the Room games are fun. The puzzle game, The Room. I think you've probably all heard of them. There's a VR one. I think it's The Room 4. Can't remember, but there'll only be one on there. That's good fun. I've forgotten the name of the game, but there's a game where you're a sniper in a canoe. We reviewed it. Mick, hopefully, will be able to remind people. But yeah, you're in a canoe and you have to canoe in VR, and then you have a sniper rifle, and it's a really weird take on things. Super Hot VR, of course, is still one of the best VR games. Res VR, if you like that game. Res is an all timer for me, and in VR, it's just brilliant. It's just brilliant. Yeah. Moss is worth a look as well if you like platform games. If you enjoyed Astrobot, Moss, maybe just jump straight to Moss 2 because it's probably newer and better. Haven't played Moss 2, but Moss was good fun. A little platform with a mouse where your head is the camera, so it's cool. Yeah, there you go. Loads of VR to be getting on with. Bankrupt yourself with VR.
I'm sure he will.
Is that anything else?
That is the end of the questions for this week.
Okay, then. Play jingle, which is me telling me to... Yeah, play.
Chris Hyde, listen to Correspondence. It's time. It's time. Chris Hyde,
There's bits of that video jingle that still get me every time. Thanks to Chris for the listener correspondence, and thanks to Steve for the jingle. I won't thank him every week, but thanks, just worth shouting out now and again, thanking people for the things they do. It's just a nice thing to do, So thanks very much for watching the podcast. Thanks for listening to it. Thanks for subscribing and hitting the bell and doing all that YouTubey stuff. And thanks if you don't, just listening to us sort of via Podbean or Spotify or iTunes podcasts or all the millions of podcast apps there are nowadays. Thank you for that. Do go to patreon.com/GodIsGeek where you can support us financially so we get to keep making stuff like this and go to events and like I've been going to recently when I previewed Resident Evil Village Winter's expansion, Street Fighter 6 and stuff like that. And there's more coming up that at the time of writing I'm not allowed to speak about, but I have something else.
So many games coming.
Yeah, there's a lot. Thank you, of course, to Lyle and Chris for being here.
It's been great.
Pleasure.
And to everybody else, we will see you probably next week. I'm just getting to that point. We're getting to the point where we're so busy I can't for absolute certainty say we'll see you next week or wherever you choose to listen. But I'm going to say it because that's what I say at the end of the pod. But we'll probably see you next week or whenever you choose to listen. Bye-bye for now.